We begin tonight with tonight's big number, 35.5 million. That's the number of Filipinos now up for vaccination under the A4 priority group. Clusters inoculation began today.
13 million NCR plus residents will be prioritized. The vaccination of economic frontliners is crucial as they comprise more than half of the target 70 million to achieve herd immunity. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampa. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with the government finally rolling out vaccines for economic frontliners.
With the group comprising the largest cluster of vaccinees, how do authorities plan to inoculate the sector? Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro with The Big Story.
As a fast food cashier dealing with dozens of strangers, Regine Alvarez de Monera always feared catching COVID-19. But as one of the first of millions of economic frontliners to get their jabs on Monday, Regine says this doesn't just guarantee her safety, but her family's as well.
Cashier pa po ako din kung ano-anong pera na hawakan ko galing sa mga ibang tao.
3 months after rolling out its vaccine drive, government finally expanding its priority list to include the A4 category, or the essential workers group. In a ceremonial vaccination in SM Mall of Asia, the national government inoculated 50 essential workers.
Lahat ng ating mga kababayan na kailangan lumabas ng kanilang mga bahay para magtrabaho ay babakunahan na natin.
The A4 Essential Workers Group include all government and private sector workers, informal sector workers, self-employed individuals who work outside their homes, and those who work in private households who need to physically report to work. Private and public workers only need to show their work IDs, while informal sector workers can bring any proof of business document.
Mas mapanatag yung loob ko para makaiwas po sa sakit or sa COVID.
According to the IATF, there are 2 phases for the A4 vaccination. First phase will focus on the 13 million workers on NCR plus 8 because of their high concentration of COVID cases. Phase 2 will focus on the 22.5 million workers from areas outside the NCR plus 8. That's a total of 35.5 million workers. The A1 to A3 categories comprise more than 25 million Filipinos. In the last 3 months, we have only vaccinated some 6 million, or less than a fourth of that number. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III urges LGUs to prioritize those aged 40 to 59 in the A4 categories because they're more vulnerable. Duque says A4 vaccination in the LGU level in the NCR plus 8 areas may start within the week. I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News.
To tell us more about government's vaccination game plan, joining us tonight, Ronjin Solante, vaccine expert panel member and head of the San Lazaro Hospital's Adult Infectious Diseases and Tropical Medicine Unit. Dr. Solante, welcome again to The Big Story.
Good evening, Robbie.
Sir, just to manage expectations, napakalaki pong sector nito, 35 plus million Filipinos. Pero ano po ba yung supply situation natin in the coming weeks?
I think if we look at some of these vaccines that are coming in, it's slow, but at least they're already here. Some of these, like the Sinovac, the Sputnik, and these are good signs that our country is also looking into, hoping that before the year ends, the target of the Philippines, especially for this A1, A2, A3, and A4, will also be allocated enough vaccines so that we can open up the economy and hopefully reduce the transmission even up to this year.
Okay, now just to clarify, because alam ko, as early as this weekend, a lot of people belonging to A4 were already checking their LGUs, lalo na yung mga online registration, kung pwede na. Officially, is that the policy now? Pagka po nagpunta nila sa online registration sa kanilang LGUs, makikita nila bukas na ang A4?
Yeah, depende yan sa mga LGUs na kung sino yung unang bibigyan itong mga bakuna na i-prioritize ng government natin, no? Kasi hindi naman sabay-sabay yan, no? So you'll notice na some of the LGUs, pag nagpunta ka, hindi pa siya open, but you just have to try para lang makakuha tayo ng slot doon, no? And hopefully that will also be open to all LGUs, especially dito sa NCR Plus bubble.
Now, in the meantime po, one big concern, marami pa rin pong A2 tsaka A3 na hindi nagpapabakuna. Ngayon pong binuksan na sa A4, labo-labo na po ba yan? Or meron pa rin tayong prioritization when it comes to A2, A3? And how will that work?
Yeah, tama ka, Robbie, no? So, apat na priority population na to, but we still have to prioritize yung A1, especially the healthcare workers, no? So, yung mga hindi pa masyadong na-convince na magpabakuna, hopefully you will have yourself vaccinated. Tapos itong mga elderly na mataas rin ang risk ng severe cases na ito yung nakakapuno sa hospital, dapat mas mauna pa rin to kaysa A4. And then you have the A3, which has the group with the highest risk also of severe because of the comorbidities. No? So that will also be an allocation in terms of prioritizing A1, A2, A3, and at the same time, opening up the line for the A4.
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Ronjin Solante. With the vaccination of the largest priority group now rolling, will there be enough supply to cater to demand? For now, the government is positive that there will be. Vaccine Chief Carlito Galvez says a total of 10 million doses are scheduled to arrive this month. That would include 5.5 million doses of Sinovac vaccines, 100,000 doses of Sputnik V, and 250,000 from Moderna. Shots from the COVAX facility will also arrive, including close to 2.3 million doses of Pfizer shots and 2 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines. Some 15 million more are slated for delivery by August.
These are the other big stories tonight. The health department reiterates parties are still banned. This comes after super spreader celebrations were held separately in Quezon City and Cebu. There has been a shift in COVID-19 infections. Mindanao has outpaced Metro Manila COVID tally, accounting for a quarter of the country's total caseload. And a Filipino finally won the U.S. Women's Open. Not just that, Yuka Saso also ties the record for the youngest golfer to ever win the championship. These big stories after the break.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Over the weekend, big social gatherings were reported in two of the country's major COVID-19 battlegrounds, Metro Manila and Cebu. The health department branded these as super spreader events. Arian Kalumbiran with the story.
A compound in Old Balara, Quezon City remains under lockdown after 72 of its residents tested positive for COVID-19. The culprit, a wedding reception. One of the attendees, the wedding car's driver, was already infected with the virus. He got it from a drinking session with fellow compound residents last month. The Quezon City LGU has already issued a show cause order against the homeowner's president as well as the barangay chairman Alan Franza. Franza said they never fell short in reminding residents.
Katunayan po, nung nagpaalam sila rito ay hindi po natin sila pinayagan. Pero still, in-insist nila na ituloy na hindi nalalaman ng barangay.
Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte said village officials may have been complacent due to the change in quarantine status.
I believe it had a psychological effect on the people in general, wherein they felt probably that the virus was dissipating and that things were safer and that they could be more, pwede silang magluwag sa kanilang mga ginagawa.
Over in Cebu City, a similar gathering was caught on video. Customers of a bar in Barangay Kasambagan partied with no face masks and disregarding social distancing. According to the Freeman, guests partying at the bar's outdoor premises started crowding indoors when it rained on Saturday. Cebu City's LGU has issued a show cause order against the establishment along with 9 others that also supposedly violated health protocols.
As we try to open our bars, if we found out that there will be transmission there, we will not be hesitant to do drastic measures in order to address the issue.
Following these incidents, the health department strongly reiterated that partying is still not allowed.
Nakikiusap sa ating mga local government units at sa ating publiko na ipinagbabawal na rin po ang pagtitipon gaya ng mga parties na maaring maging source ng super spreader events. Kaakibat na sanctions na para sa mga local government officials na hindi magpapatupad ng mga standards na ito sa kanilang komunidad.
On One News agenda, Octa researchers Guido David said such gatherings are the result of pandemic fatigue. He said the only way to avoid transmissions at this point is to ramp up vaccinations.
We're always under constant threat of a surge. And that's why it's important for people to get vaccinated.
Arian Kalumbiran, we are One News.
Metro Manila appears to no longer be the country's COVID-19 epicenter. That's after Mindanao accounted for a quarter of the average daily cases in the past week. The details in Jem Avancenia's report.
Over the past week, average daily COVID-19 cases in the country climbed to 6,000. 25% of these infections were recorded in Mindanao alone. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere said this represents a shift in the COVID-19 burden among provinces.
Na outpace na po ng Mindanao ang National Capital Region. Aside from Mindanao, we are also seeing rise in cases in some parts of the Visayas region, also in some parts of the northern Luzon.
The agency said a multitude of factors may have led to the recent surge in Mindanao.
One, mobility of the population. Pangalawa, yung compliance po natin sa health protocols. Pangatlo, yun pong response po ng ating gobyerno, both national and local. And the last, and I think it's very important, yun pong epekto ng variants.
Because of the worsening situation, the stricter Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine or MECQ has been re-implemented in Davao City. COVID-19 ICUs are filled to the brim with patients. The occupancy rate at the Philippine Medical Center has reached 98%. The facility now needs more nurses and doctors.
In general, understaffed pa rin kami. In fact, sumulat ako kay Secretary Galvez.
Motorists in the city have to bear with long queues as stricter checkpoints have been set up. Some establishments are also under lockdown due to high COVID-19 transmission among workers.
Pag hindi kami sumunod, sasara naman yung business namin. Luging-lugi po. Ang hirap, sobrang hirap.
In April, COVID-19 cases decreased by almost 40% in Davao City. However, by mid-May, cases started to slowly increase anew. Just this weekend, Davao City recorded over 2,300 active cases. For News 5, Jem Avancenia, we are One News.
It's not only in Mindanao where there has been an uptick in cases. Octa Research is flagging a slight increase in COVID-19 cases nationwide. The think tank says reproduction number or the rate of virus transmission for the entire Philippines is now at 1.05. Octa fellow Guido David also noted a 19% rise in cases compared to the previous week. He says the trend in NCR remains stable, but it has yet to decline significantly. David also flagged a potential surge this rainy season, similar to the case last year.
this is what we saw last year. From June to August, nagka-surge tayo when exactly during the rainy season. So we fear that, pero syempre, we hope it won't happen. Kumbaga, this is more like incorporating factors of seasonality and yung environment.
Time for next close look at some of the day's big stories. Former FEU football player Keith Absalon dies at the age of 21 after being hit by a shrapnel from an IED blast in his hometown in Masbate. The incident occurred over the weekend while Absalon was cycling with his cousin, who also died because of the explosion. According to the PNP, the IED was allegedly planted in the area by NPA rebels. The National Bureau of Investigation and BPI filed criminal charges against former Wirecard COO Jan Marsalek, lawyer Mark Tolentino, and several others. This is in connection with a $2.1 billion fraud scandal linked to Wirecard. The amount was supposedly deposited into two local banks, BPI and BDO, and this was denied by both the lenders and the central bank. The Health Department expressed openness to expand its vaccine coverage to children once it's proven safe and effective. This comes after China approved the emergency use of its Sinovac vaccine for kids aged 3 and above. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere said the government is awaiting proof that it is safe and effective on children. Meanwhile, a 10-year-old Pinoy has wowed America's Got Talent judges all by himself with his cover of Celine Dion's All By Myself. In a dapper white suit, Peter Rosalita introduced himself as a Filipino citizen who was born in Abu Dhabi. Asked what he would do with the 1 million cash prize, Peter said he will buy a Nintendo Switch and a laptop for online classes, much to the amusement of the judges. He then belted out the Celine Dion classic, surprising everybody and earning himself a standing ovation. Celine herself gushed over the prodigy, who is still on cloud 9 after the impressive showing.
I was so happy for all of my fans out there. Don't forget to keep up on your dreams and never give up. And enjoy every little journey and thing you have right now.
Well said from the little boy. Time for another quick break. When we return, the royal family just had a new addition. Meet the newborn of the Dutch and Duchess of Sussex, named after the Queen and late Princess Diana. And another Pinoy athlete is making waves overseas. Yuka Saso just became the first Filipino and the youngest golfer to ever win the U.S. Women's Open.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Former House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano is looking to shoot his shot at the presidency, but no final plans yet, same as with other reported contenders. Mian Los Baños with this report.
Another possible contender for the presidential seat comes forward. Former House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano seems to be following the footsteps of his former running mate President Duterte as he considers taking shot at the highest post come 2022. He is already crafting a 5-year plan for the country.
I'm seriously considering running for president or for other positions, but I'm really praying and discerning about it.
Meanwhile, despite claims of her running as Camarines Sur governor, Vice President Leni Robredo insists she has made no final decision yet. Robredo clarifies that former Congressman Rolando Andaya Jr. was among those who are trying to convince her to run as governor.
Nakausap in person iniisip ko kailan si Congressman Andaya ay February of 2021. Pumunta sila sa office at inaaya ako na mag-governor. And ako very honest naman ako lagi sa kahit in public sinasabi ko na talagang option yan para sa akin. In fact, ilang beses ko sinabi na kung walang ibang considerations, ang preference ko local. Pero wala pa akong desisyon.
Robredo spokesperson Attorney Barry Gutierrez said in an interview with the Chiefs that VP Leni isn't closing her doors to the presidency.
She has not eliminated any of the options before her. That includes running for a local position, that includes running for president, and that even includes simply stepping back from politics.
But Robredo's camp acknowledges the tough battle going against administration bets.
You are going up against a popular president, going by the surveys. You are going by a very well-oiled, very extensive social media machinery.
Over in the camp of Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, they tell News 5 that nothing is definite yet. Last week, Albay Congressman Joey Salceda revealed so-called plans by the presidential daughter to run as the next chief executive in 2022. This was followed by claims from Andaya that the Sara Duterte-Gibo-Chodoro tandem is already a done deal. Election strategist Amor Maclang told Wag po, keeping mum about one's political plans has its advantage.
Kung ngayon pa lang nagpapaamoy ka na ikaw ay tatakbo, right? You're giving enough runway or lead time for your competitors to create a strategy to bring you down, right?
The filing of candidacy for the next elections happens in October. Reporting for News 5, Mian Los Baños, we are One News.
Let's take a look at the biggest stories on print and online. From the Philippine Star, energy regulators are looking for an explanation as to why unplanned plant shutdowns have been more frequent recently. The Energy Regulatory Commission has sent notices of non-compliance after power plants breached the allowable number of outage days this year. Last week, some Metro Manila cities and neighboring provinces experienced rotational brownouts due to low power supplies. Business World reports that SAR loans held by Philippine banks continued to rise in April. Non-performing loan ratio is at its highest in nearly 12 years as borrowers' capacity to pay debts were affected by lockdowns. Non-performing loans surged 84% to over 463 billion pesos in April from around 251 billion pesos 1 year ago. And from News 5, some Metro Manila cities and parts of Cavite can expect water service interruptions during the week. Maynilad said the repair and maintenance activities will take longer than usual since it involves bigger pipes. Maynilad assured that it is prepared to deploy mobile water tankers to affected customers.
And here are other big stories from around the world. Britain's Duke and Duchess of Sussex have welcomed their second child, a baby girl named after Queen Elizabeth and Prince Harry's late mother, Princess Diana. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor was born on Friday in a hospital in California. Queen Elizabeth and other members of the royal family said they're delighted with the news. Lily's birth follows a tumultuous year for the couple who stepped down from royal duties and moved to the U.S. to live more independent lives. The death toll from a militant attack in Burkina Faso has risen to 132. That would include 7 children. Armed assailants struck during the night on Friday, burning homes and killing residents of the village of Solhan, which borders Niger. No group has claimed responsibility for the killings, but since the start of the year, attacks by jihadists linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State have risen sharply in West Africa's Sahel region.
Now for the big story in sports, it's history in the making. 19-year-old Pinay golfer Yuka Saso became the first Filipino player to win the 76th U.S. Women's Open Golf Championship. Saso came back from a rough start to force a playoff tiebreaker with Japanese golfer Nasa Hataoka. It was in the sudden death where Saso hit a birdie to seal the win. With the victory, Saso matched South Korean Park In-bi as the youngest winners in the championship's history at 19 years, 11 months, and 17 days. She also earned about $1 million for her win and gained her LPGA Tour membership in the process.
It's very special win for me, for my family, but this is just the start. So, and also, sorry, and also for the country also, I think it's really a good win. But you know, it doesn't stop here, so I hope we can get more.
Earlier, we reported about a 10-year-old Pinoy singer getting a standing ovation in AGT. Back here in Pasig, a dog goes karaoke mode to timeless jukebox hits. Meet Patrick, the 7-year-old house dog of the Kuntapay family. Uploader Irene Kuntapay said Patrick learned to sing when he was 2. Patrick's favorite, Whitney Houston's rendition of I Will Always Love You. Even if he's idle, Irene said Patrick will definitely have a duet with Whitney, particularly the moment he hears her vibrato. Cool.
Lucky parents. Well, speaking of Monday, it's a historic Monday. And grabe, napanood mo ba kanina?
Napanood ko kaninang umaga. Talaga amazing. I'm not a golfer. I watch. But when you watch it, alam mo na, she was what? 3-4 strokes behind when it started. Nagdalawang bogey. Tapos sa playoff, talagang exciting.
Amazing composure for a 19-year-old. She was walking through the fairway and you couldn't see that she was rattled. But in our interview, she was saying kinabahan daw siya. And I asked her about her secret to her mental composure. Bukas po yan.
And a very, very, very humble, very impressive, very humble. Yuka Saso really made all of us very proud.
Long ways to go for her. Well, that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.